Hello everyone. I've come a little bit off-piste to do this video. You might be able to see behind me there's a town of Bakewell. You might be able to just see the spire of the church. So this is the footpath which leads up by Holme Hall. I think it's called Holme Hall. Over, if I keep walking, I will get to Hassop. So we're headed to the Monsell Trail. Let me go through this little gate. Oh. So this is a video that I said I would make yesterday, but actually I've been meaning to make this video for many months. Pieces have been dropping in. And this journey of life, it feels like a kind of giant jigsaw puzzle. And you're kind of given clues en route. And one of the really key things is to kind of slow down and try to suspend judgment, because not everything is as it seems. And there's a very strong program, isn't there, to sort everything into good, bad, right, wrong, and make those kind of snap decisions. So that place of curiosity about what is showing up, particularly when you start making prayers, setting intentions, asking the universe for guidance. It doesn't always come in obvious ways. It comes in all sorts of disguises. Chance meetings, interesting people, and it's so easy to hijack by that process of judgment. Oh, this is good, this is bad. You know, judgment is a very deeply embedded program, and it's embedded by our schooling system and by this reliance on science. You know, I'll believe it when I see it, whereas the opposite is true. I'll see it when I believe it. Lots of interesting reveals throughout my entire life, but particularly over the past week. Hold on, I'm going to pause here because someone's coming to interrupt my flow. So, quite a few months ago, quite randomly, don't quite actually know how he came up on my radar. Probably someone sent me a link to him. But I started to get interested in watching the videos of John Lamb Lash. And I made a video in his in tribute to him called Bring Back Beauty, as opposed to Build Back Better. So I've been following John Lamb Lash, and then he announced that the 15th anniversary edition of his book, Not in His Image, would be coming out, and would people pre-order it? And I'm a great believer in kind of rewarding people that I follow and that I really like, and I hadn't actually bought anything from him before, so I thought, yeah, let's go for that, whatever it was, £15, £20. So I pre-ordered it, and it arrived last week. So the interesting thing, when I turned to the first chapter, it was entitled The Murder of Hypatia, or Hypatia is another pronunciation of that name. Now, Hypatia instantly caught my eye because my best friend, Davina McHale, who's currently living out in Peru at a retreat centre which she crowdfunded in the jungle called Sipapu, the place of emergence. She has a lot of resonance with Hypatia, and believed that she may well have been her in her past life. Certainly there's a resonance. So I was so interested to see this immediate chapter, the murder of Hypatia. So I thought, this is interesting. Now, it's an intense book, and it will probably take me some weeks, if not months, to read it. But I have been reading various segments of it, and it is really resonating with me. Now, basically, Hypatia, I'm going to have to decide which of those names to call her. Just in this, just to give you a little view of what I can see here. I'm walking on this footpath in between these stone walls, and the fields are surrounded by cows. And oh look, there's a hello, hi, hello, how you doing? So I'm a little bit wary of letting Kobe off the lead, because if he gets into those fields, I'm gonna have a devil of a job to get him back on the lead with the livestock. So, and I haven't been up here before with him, so I may on the way back let him off. Sorry, this video might take some time, but there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it, which will become apparent very shortly. So settle into your seats and get your popcorn. Not that it's going to be that entertaining. Oh yeah, I was right. There's a big gaps under these gates, which Kobe could easily get under. Oh yeah. Ooh. Okay, here we go. Let's go through here. Let's go through here. Kobe, no, come on. Straight for the cow. Oh, and a little beautiful little calf. You see that? Little calf there in the field. This is sweet. And we've just come over the hill, coming down towards Hassop, and over that way it's kind of Ashford in the water. And if you keep going, you get to Calver. That's it. Kobe wants to say hello to this cow. Come on, darling. Come on. Come on, sweetie. Yeah. I know you want to make friends. They're a bit dangerous, aren't they? A bit dangerous if you get in that field. Mummy will never be able to get you back. So we have to keep you on the lead, I'm afraid. So, Hypatia. She was a high priestess. She was a Gnostic. And she was essentially a teacher in the mystery schools in about 400 AD. And this was at a time when Christianity was increasingly on the rise. The Roman Empire had got involved to try and bring some order to this new religion, which was sweeping the world after the crucifixion of Christ. And the Christians basically hauled Hypatia into the streets and stoned her, murdered her, scraped her bones of all the flesh, and quite a horrific murder. And then, of course, the Alexandrian Library, which is, maybe I missed that point, that Hypatia was based in Alexandria, which is, if you've been to Egypt, well, I haven't been to Alexandria, I've been to Egypt, but it's essentially on the Mediterranean Sea at, I believe, the top of the Nile. I'm going to have to check my geography. But it's kind of like a gateway to Egypt. And at Alexandria was a library which was filled with scrolls. And these scrolls contained all of the wisdom, all of the ancient knowledge of the mystery schools and the classical era. So, of course, the Romans burned the Alexandrian Library, and the reason why they burnt it is because they wanted to destroy all of the mystery school teachings, all of that wisdom, all of that knowledge, because it was super powerful and it gave a huge amount of power to the Gnostics and the mystery schools. And the interesting thing about the mystery school era, those regions which were which had opened to the teachings of the mystery schools, peace and prosperity reigned. And it was only with the invasion of the barbarians and the Roman Empire that kind of upset the apple cart, basically. The interesting thing about reading this chapter about the murder of Hypatia is realizing the parallels in the modern day era. Of course, the Nazis tried to do it with the book burnings. And now in this digital era, I mean, the penny really dropped with me. I have this realization, but sometimes pieces of the jigsaw really land strongly. And now that we are becoming increasingly reliant on the digital world for our history, his story, and our understanding of what is happening is fed to us by the media, isn't it? And by search engines like Google. I don't use Google anymore. I use DuckDuckGo because I don't trust Google. It's one of the strategic partners of the World Economic Forum and therefore is absolutely deserving of my mistrust. But of course, there is this massive opportunity for the technocracy to completely wipe everything that they don't want us to know. And it's already happening, isn't it, in the media? They're only reporting what they want you to know, the stories they want you to hear. They're only telling you one version, one facet of the diamond. And this idea of fake news and fake information, I mean, if you think about it, stop to think about the implications of the digital era, the digital world, and those who are in power over that digital world, those who hold the power. In the beginning of the internet, there was a huge amount of integrity. It was young, it was vibrant, it was new, it was ethical, it was a breath of fresh air. But look how quickly it has descended into corruption and manipulation and lack of transparency and bullying. You know, I'm still suspended on Twitter, for example. I've had many of my videos struck off from Facebook and YouTube because they don't like the messages that I am sharing. And I virtually come off of Facebook. I'm only really on Telegram these days. I give a lot of my energy to Telegram because, as far as I can see, it's the only platform which allows absolute free speech. And even then, people keep saying, oh, Telegram, it's going to be bought, it's going to be corrupted in some way. So I guess it's only a matter of time before we can't trust Telegram. But hey, we have to use the best tools that we have available at the current time. Now, the interesting thing, going back to Hypatia and ancient Egypt, is, and again, this is the interesting thing I'm saying about piecing together the jigsaw, because a few years ago, I used to do a lot more mentoring than I do now. I get the occasional one-to-one mentoring client. But back in those days, I had quite a few clients. And I had one client who came to me and she wanted me to mentor her on the creation of a kind of heart's desire business, a business she'd always wanted to create. And that was to create spiritual experience holidays. And so I said, wow, that's amazing. So we had this discussion on what the destination for her first spiritual experience holiday should be. Because, of course, with a business like that, the very best thing you can do is just get going and get started and just do your first trip and, you know, dip your toe in the water and see what happens. You know, you can do endless business plans and all of that kind of stuff, but sometimes it's good just to go for it. So she was agonizing, you know, what destination should I choose? And I said, well, choose somewhere that you have always wanted to go. Choose your heart's desire destination. She said, well, I've never been to Egypt. And I'm like, bingo, neither have I. That's a great idea. Why don't you go to Egypt and I'll be your first customer. I'll buy a place on that trip. So to cut a long story short, in the event, there were only 5 of us. But because of the economy in Egypt, we were able to, or she was able to cut a really amazing deal. And so the 5 of us women had a tour guide and a boat down the Nile all to ourselves and just did this amazing 10-day experience, kind of culminating, I think it culminated on the full moon. And we went to Cairo, to Luxor, we sailed down the Nile to Aswan, and then we flew back to Cairo. The culmination was to spend an hour at dawn in silent meditation inside the king's chamber, inside the Great Pyramid. It was such an interesting, fascinating, amazing... Oh my goodness, this is probably the most disjointed video I've ever done. Apologies, but please bear with me. Hope you're enjoying the scenery. So, we went to the Great Pyramid as the finale to this amazing experience. And if you've never been to Egypt, it's like, I was just like, oh my God, I've come home. I just thought, I have come home. And we were in the king's chamber. It was kind of frustrating because there was an air conditioning unit whirring away in the corner. And they said, oh, you can't go in the sarcophagus. But then they said, oh yeah, jump in the sarcophagus just for a couple of minutes. Strictly speaking, you're not allowed. There's a sort of armed guard. And then the armed guard and the tour guide were kind of chatting in the corridor. And of course, it's like reverberating. I mean, basically, we weren't getting to silence. We weren't getting to peace. And so in the end, I crept across, switched off the air conditioning machine and just shouted, Yella! I think Yella means like go away, stop it. So this Yella reverberated through the Great Pyramid, and then suddenly we were in total silence. They got the message, and we were in pitch black, total silence, and oh my God, just sitting there for... By that point, I think there was about 40 minutes left. Sitting there for 40 minutes in the king's chamber in absolute silence. And the beautiful thing that as we settled into that silence, we could literally hear the heartbeat of planet Earth, of Gaia. Now, if you know about the king's chamber, it's actually built to the harmonic resonance of the Schumann frequency. It's built, it's an amplification portal. So what it essentially, you go in there and you can literally listen to the planet. And this memory flooded back to me because reading John Lamb Lasher's book, Not in His Image, which is all about the realization that in the mystery school teachings, the goddess was Sophia, essentially Gaia, the divine goddess. Now, I've been told off extensively for making the patriarchy wrong and being a feminist, and that isn't what this is about. It is a realization that the divine energy that is pulsing through our life on this planet is not masculine, it's feminine. And I really landed through reading that chapter in the book that I had been taken on that journey to literally commune with the planet, to literally hear her heartbeat, to connect, to be like in the womb of Sophia, of Gaia. Now, the other interesting thing, which coming round to the title of this video, Modern Mystery School, which John Lamb Lash alludes to, and I haven't read the whole book, but he does talk about entheogens. And this has been another huge piece in my unplugging from the programs, the deeply embedded programs, which, I mean, if I look back 10 years, 20 years ago, certainly in my corporate era, in my business era, growing up, going to the city, working my way up in accountancy, creating my own business, winning awards, making lots of money, being on Dragon's Den, being on the telly, I was so deeply embedded in the program. And so one of the ways that I've been able to unplug from those deeply embedded programs, because you don't know they're there. They're like apps on your phone that you don't even know are there and running. So plant medicine, which is one of the greatest gifts from the planet to us, to humanity. Plant medicine. I mean, plant medicine has many forms. Gaia has many gifts for us. You know, so many people make plant medicine wrong. Oh, ayahuasca, it's drugs. I don't need drugs to access blah, blah, blah. But, plant medicine, everything is plant medicine, whether it's chamomile tea to calm you down, or essential oils like lavender, or aloe vera to soothe if you're burnt. All of these gifts of nature, they're all plant medicines of some shape or form. And bear in mind that ayahuasca is a bonding of two plants. So it's the ayahuasca vine with a bonding agent like acacia or mimosa or jurema or chacruna. The ancient Egyptians, they used acacia. We made it. We're on the monster trail, folks. As if by magic. So it's kind of clear from reading the book, and I haven't fully read it, but there are mentions of it. So I am assuming that John Lam Lash. Hello. Oh. Hi. Just let these cyclists go by. So this monster trail, if you know the Peak District and Bakewell. Hello. This used to be a railway until the Beeching Report decided, oh, it's not efficient to have these little railways, and so they took up the railway, which used to go from Buxton to Bakewell, and then on to Matlock. So of course now, if you want to come to Bakewell, you have to come by car, which is bad luck really if you didn't manage to fill your tank, and given the petrol crisis shortage of the past couple of days. Oh my goodness, what a pickle we are in this planet, because we are so reliant on these big corporate suppliers, and just look how brittle that supply chain is. We've placed our trust and our reliance on big corporates, and now we are paying a huge price for it. Just wanted to get that in there, because that is a kind of essence of one of the outcomes of this video that I will eventually get onto. So it's pretty clear to me that John Lam Lash has dabbled extensively in plant medicine work, whether ayahuasca or other forms of plant medicine. Now, I was encouraged to experience plant medicine when I co-created Source TV back in 2013. And, I got out my box of old paradigm business toolkit to pour lots of energy and everything I knew about business into making this company work, and very quickly realized that to create a new paradigm business using old paradigm tools was not going to work. And a very close friend of mine said, Rachel, if you're going to run a business called Source TV, you really need to go super deep with your own work. And I was tremendously resistant, and it took me a year, took me at least a year to open up to plant medicine. And it is quite a terrifying prospect, and a lot of people will tell you horror stories about it. The thing to absolutely realize about plant medicine is what you are opening to is journeying beyond the veil of illusion, this veil of duality, reality, which is so intoxicating, so seductive. And yet, when you journey beyond the veil, you realize that beyond the illusion, there is just pure love, just the most amazing diamond light, like 1,000,000 volts of electricity. I mean, it's quite incredible. But it takes a bit of work to get there. I just really want to say that, if you've ever done plant medicine work, it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of surrender to journey beyond the veil in that way. But just to say, this is one of the reasons why it's so unhelpful when people refer to ayahuasca and plant medicine as a drug. Because, of course, what happens is people get hold of some, group of blokes manage to get hold of some ayahuasca and think it would be a good idea to take it and see what happens and get high. And it's exactly the opposite of how drugs work. Because the truth is that it's a substance which is used to drive a shamanic experience. It's an entheogen. So if you take it in an attempt to get high, you risk having a very, very dark experience, because the medicine is, she's quite a strict mistress. She's a very strong teacher, and so if you abuse her, you pay the price, basically. So meticulous preparation is super important. I mean, I always do a 7-day dieta before I go anywhere near to plant medicine, because it's so important to almost be like a plant. So that means obviously no meat, no dairy, no spicy food, no fermented substances, obviously no alcohol, no caffeine, so that you can be as pure as you possibly can be before you open to the medicine. And the second really essential thing is to take it within a ceremonial setting with a shaman or an experienced curandero, someone who really understands the medicine and how to navigate that experience. You don't necessarily make it through the veil every time. You inevitably face a lot of demons. I mean, usually with a plant medicine ceremony, you set an intention. And the interesting thing about your intention is usually you are shown everything that is blocking. I'm running out of iPhone memory now, so this is a sign that I need to terminate this video and bring it to a close. So the upshot of all of this explanation is the realization, which landed so strongly this week with the equinox, and I went and did a shamanic ceremony in the forest with the amazing Sas Bullock. The realization that we are being lured into a very dangerous labyrinth with all things digital, and I have realized how important it is for all of us to unplug from the digital techno system before it's too late. And just consider, it wasn't so long ago, only back in the 80s, mobile phones only came in really in the late 1980s, and in the 1990s. The internet has only been with us for a couple of decades. I mean, you don't have to think very far back to remember the days when there were just 3 channels on television, landlines to communicate with people. If you wanted to engage with people, you had to do it in person. You had to go to their house or meet in the park or go to the pub, or everything was offline. It wasn't so long ago. We are being drawn into a very dangerous trap, people, and it is so important. We've seen it with these petrol shortages just this week. We have become so dependent on the digital world. We've become so dependent on supply chains. I urge you, if you haven't already, to go local, to try to create your base needs in your local area. Super important, because the more we are dependent on communication, the more we are dependent on technology, the more we're dependent on our cars, on the supply chain, on far-flung friends, the more vulnerable we are. And so this reconnection to Gaia, this stepping off the online world, stepping away from technology into nature, whilst I'm deeply grateful to my iPhone for the ability to record these videos, and I'm deeply grateful to the video sharing platforms that enable me to get this content to you. Nonetheless, I am sounding an alarm. We may already be in too deep. I was listening to Catherine Austin Fitz explaining about global banking, and some people say that she's CIA, but one thing that really landed, she was talking about whoever owns the satellites and the infrastructure controls the world. And just look at who is installing all of that infrastructure. Huawei is one of the big players. I mean, we are headed into a very dangerous trap here, people, and it's not too late to realize and extricate ourselves from it. Sending you so much love and really encouraging you to reconnect to Gaia, to reconnect to So fire, to open to the wisdom of nature, and that is how we will restore peace and harmony on planet Earth. Lots of love. Bye for now.